Have you ever wondered if science and faith can align? What if the Genesis story isn't just symbolic, but also true? What if we can use science and logic to explain the stories of Genesis? Today, we're exploring how assumptions of the past can change our presumptions of our present and future. Let's take a look. Many Christians wrestle with reconciling Genesis as a historical account with what science says about the age of the earth, the universe, and life itself. But what if the answers lie in understanding how assumptions can affect conclusions? Let's explore this together. To understand how assumptions can change everything, let's look at a simple example involving a scientist and a dripping faucet. Imagine a scientist walks into a room and sees a beaker collecting water from a dripping faucet. The scientist measures the amount of water in the beaker, which is 500 milliliters, and observes that the faucet drips at a steady rate of 50 milliliters per minute.
Yeah.
Based on this, the scientist calculates that the dripping has been going on for 10 minutes.
Yay!
But what if the beaker wasn't empty when the dripping started?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that the water was already dripping when the scientist entered the room.
Right.
There is no way of knowing how much water was in the beaker when the water started to drip. What if the beaker already had 250 milliliters of water in it before the dripping began? The calculation would completely change.
Yep. Ooh.
The original assumption, that the beaker started empty, led to a completely different conclusion. Without knowing the initial conditions, it's impossible to calculate the exact amount of time that the faucet has been dripping. The example of the scientist and the dripping faucet demonstrates how initial assumptions can drastically affect conclusions about the past. Now, let's apply this to Genesis. In Genesis chapters 1 through 3, we see many examples that God created a world that was ready to thrive immediately. Plants were created bearing fruit. Animals were ready to multiply. And Adam and Eve could speak and interact with God from their start. Everything was created mature with an appearance of age. Similarly, God created the sun, moon, and stars, and placed them in the expanse of the heavens. This could explain why light from distant stars already reached Earth. Just like the beaker example, starting conditions matter. Some argue that this perspective conflicts with modern science. But when we acknowledge that creation was designed to be functional from the beginning, the Genesis account makes logical sense. It's not about dismissing science. It's about understanding the role of initial conditions in shaping conclusions. So what do you think? Does Genesis hold more than just spiritual truth? Could it also explain the apparent age and complexity of the world we live in? Share your thoughts in the comments and let's continue this conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more pieces of the puzzle.